My sister tried to take over my $2 million oceanfront villa with 15 guests. So, I taught her a lesson she'll never forget. I thought I had finally made it. After decades of sacrifice, I signed the papers for my dream. A $2.8 million oceanfront villa perched on the cliffs of Seacliff Bay with nothing but the sound of Pacific waves to keep me company. I wanted silence, peace, and space to breathe. After years of grinding through 80-hour weeks as a software architect in Silicon Valley, my phone rang and the voice on the other end shattered everything. It was my sister Camille. She didn't bother with the greeting. "We're on our way to you. There will be 18 of us. Prepare beds, towels, robes, food. We'll be staying for 4 weeks. We'll be there in an hour, so hurry up." I stared at my iPhone in disbelief. 18 people, 4 weeks. My sanctuary, my lifelong reward, was about to be turned into her personal resort. My heart raced, but instead of panicking, I felt a strange calm spread through me. I smiled because I had a plan. When Camille hung up, I stood frozen in the middle of my half-unpacked great room. The phone still pressed against my ear, even though the line had gone dead. The Pacific stretched endlessly outside my floor-to-ceiling windows, waves rolling in steady rhythm, but all I could hear was the echo of her command. "Prepare beds, towels, robes, food. 18 of us for weeks." My hands shook as I set the phone down on the granite island. For years, I had dreamed of this exact view, the endless horizon, the salty air rushing through wide-open windows, the faint cries of seagulls over the cypress trees. I'd worked double shifts, skipped vacations, lived in a studio apartment while others splurged, all for this moment. This house wasn't just property. It was my sanctuary. And Camille, my own sister, had decided it was hers, too. I remembered the tone in her voice. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even a suggestion. It was a demand delivered with the certainty of someone who had gotten her way too many times before. Growing up, Camille had always been the one who snapped her fingers, and I was the one who cleaned up the mess. When she wanted my new designer jeans, she borrowed them and never returned them. When she needed help with rent in her 20s, I wrote the checks, convincing myself it was just temporary. When she couldn't afford her daughter's private school tuition, I dipped into my retirement savings, telling myself, family comes first. But now she wanted my home. The sound of the ocean faded as my mind pulled me backward into years I had tried to bury. Camille had always been the kind of person who took without asking. And if you dared to say no, she'd make you feel guilty until you gave in anyway. I remembered the first time she called me for help. I was 24, fresh out of Stanford, barely making ends meet with my entry-level developer job at a tech startup. She wanted money for rent on her apartment in Crestview. "Just $2,000, Maya," she'd pleaded, using that sugary voice that made her sound almost innocent. "I'll pay you back the moment I get my modeling gig payment." I gave it to her, of course. She never repaid me. Years rolled on and the numbers grew larger. When her credit cards maxed out, she called me. When her BMW broke down, she called me. When her son needed new Air Jordans, she called me. And every time, the story was the same. She was desperate. She promised repayment. She always failed to deliver. The biggest blow came when her daughter went off to Eastbridge University. I had been saving for my dream home, watching every dollar like a hawk. Camille, on the other hand, had spent lavishly Hermes bags, spa weekends in Willow Valley, vacations to Puerto Azul with friends. Then suddenly, when tuition was due, she turned to me. "Maya, you've always been the responsible one. You have money. Can't you help? Just this once." How many times had I heard those words? Too many. But I paid. I paid because I didn't want my niece to suffer for her mother's recklessness. And then there was the wedding. Camille wanted the grandest event possible. Flowers flown in from Holland, a ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton dripping in crystal. A Vera Wang gown that cost more than my Honda Civic. Of course, she didn't have the money for it. "Please, Maya," she whispered to me over lattes one afternoon, her manicured hands clutching mine dramatically. "You're the only one I can count on. This day means everything to me." I signed the check. I told myself it was love. That family was worth the sacrifice. But deep down, a voice inside me whispered the truth. Camille didn't value me. She valued what I could give her. Now standing in my villa, I could see the pattern clearly. It wasn't love. It wasn't sisterhood. It was entitlement. Decades of it layered like bricks on my shoulders. An hour felt like 4 minutes. I hadn't even finished unpacking the box of Williams-Sonoma dishes in my kitchen when the rumble of engines echoed up the coastal highway. I stepped to the window and my stomach dropped. 6 vehicles, a convoy. Camille's black Escalade at the front like a general leading her troops, followed by a Range Rover, 2 Suburbans stuffed with people, a pickup truck piled high with coolers and beach chairs, and a minivan with luggage strapped to the roof. Dust rose from my circular driveway as they pulled in, tires crunching over the imported Italian stone like an army advancing into conquered territory. Car doors slammed in rapid succession. Laughter erupted. Children shrieked. Someone yelled, "Holy crap, this place is insane." And then I saw her, Camille, emerging from the Escalade with oversized Chanel sunglasses, her blonde hair whipping in the breeze like she was about to film a reality show. "Maya," she called, spreading her arms wide as though this were some joyful reunion. "Look at this paradise. You lucky, lucky girl." I didn't move. My custom mahogany front door stood between us, solid wood with frosted glass panels. I thought for a fleeting second about leaving it locked, pretending not to be home, but the pounding came before I could even decide. "Come on, sis. Open up." We drove 6 hours from Salona to get here. I opened the door an inch, just enough to meet her smug smile. "Camille, I told you I'm not ready for guests." She didn't even hesitate. She shoved the door wider and brushed past me into the foyer. Her Chanel number 5 filling the air. Behind her, a flood of bodies poured in, faces I didn't recognize, dragging suitcases, lugging boxes of White Claw and Corona, shouting to one another like this was some spring break house party. "Check out that infinity pool," someone shouted from the hallway. "This kitchen is massive," another voice echoed. A young woman I'd never met slipped off her flip-flops and padded across my imported Carrara marble, leaving sandy footprints from Caramel Beach. "Stop," I said, my voice trembling more with fury than fear. "You can't just walk in like this." But they didn't even hear me. Or worse, they didn't care. Camille twirled in the center of the foyer, spreading her arms wide. "Isn't this perfect, everyone? Just like I told you. My sister always knew how to live large." She said it like a title that granted her automatic ownership, as if being related to me was a lifetime pass to every dream I had ever worked for. I followed her gaze as she pointed toward the floating staircase. "The master suite upstairs, right? I'll take that one. It has the best view of the bay." My heart lurched. "No," I said sharply, stepping into her path. "That's my private space." Her sunglasses slid down her nose, revealing the icy glint in her green eyes. "Maya, don't be selfish. We're family, and besides, you've got plenty of space." Behind her, more voices cheered. People dragged their belongings deeper into my home, rearranging my West Elm furniture like they owned the place. A man popped open a cooler, the crack of a Budweiser filling my pristine living room. In less than 10 minutes, my villa, the sanctuary I had dreamed of, was no longer mine. It was theirs. And Camille, my sister, stood at the center of it all, smiling as if she had one. I stood frozen at the base of the staircase, watching Camille march upward like a queen ascending her throne. Her Jimmy Choo heels clicked against the polished oak, echoing through the villa like a countdown to war. "Camille," I snapped, following her. "That room is off limits. It's mine." She tossed her head back, her laugh sharp and dismissive. "Oh, Maya, don't be ridiculous. It's just a room, and everyone knows the host gives up the best space for her guests." "Guests?" I hissed. "You're not guests. You invited yourself and 18 people I've never even met." She didn't answer. Instead, she threw the double doors of my master suite open wide. Sunlight poured in, illuminating the private balcony overlooking Seacliff Bay. My sanctuary, my dream. She stepped inside as though it had always belonged to her. "This is perfect for us," one of her friends squealed, dragging a Louis Vuitton suitcase across the hardwood. The light in here will be amazing for our Instagram stories. No, I said, my voice trembling as I blocked the doorway. Nobody sleeps in here. This is my private space. Camille turned slowly, pulling off her sunglasses. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Maya, stop being dramatic. You have 5 other bedrooms. This one suits me best. Besides, she glanced toward the balcony, I'll need the view for my morning yoga videos. My followers will absolutely love it. The casual entitlement in her tone made my stomach twist. I stepped forward, planting myself between her and the balcony. Get out. Her friends exchanged amused looks as if this was some sort of performance. Camille smirked. Really, Maya? After everything I've done for you? That line almost made me laugh. Everything she'd done for me. 4 years, I had been the one bailing her out, saving her from eviction, covering her mistakes. But in Camille's warped version of reality, I was the selfish one. You don't get it, I said, my voice rising. This house isn't a vacation rental. It's not a free resort. It's mine. I bought it. I earned it. And you don't get to take it over. Silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of waves outside. Then Camille's smirk hardened. She stepped closer, invading my space, her perfume sharp in my nose. You think this place makes you better than me? She sneered. You think money changes who's in charge here? I'm your sister, Maya. Family always comes first. Not like this, I shot back, my hands shaking, but my voice steady. Not by force. Her eyes narrowed, and in that instant, I saw the truth. She had never come here for a visit. She had come to claim what wasn't hers, the way she always had. Only now, the stakes were higher. Behind me, her friends had already flung open my walk-in closet doors, fingering my clothes, making comments about borrowing dresses. My blood boiled. Out. I shouted louder than I'd ever spoken to Camille in my life. All of you out. Camille froze, stunned by the force of my voice. For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. But just as quickly, she masked it with a cold smile. You're making a big mistake, sis, she said softly. One you'll regret. And with that, she tossed her suitcase onto my bed. The final insult. For a moment, I just stared at the suitcase sprawled across my Ralph Lauren bedspread, its metal zipper glinting in the sunlight. Something inside me cracked. Years of biting my tongue, of giving in for the sake of family harmony, of letting Camille trample over every boundary I had ever set, all of it boiled up at once. Take it off my bed. My voice came out low, dangerous, trembling with fury. Camille blinked, taken aback by my tone. Then her lips curled into a smirk. Oh, Maya, relax. You've got to learn to share. Family helps family, remember? Isn't that what Mom always said? Her words stabbed like knives. She knew exactly which strings to pull, always dragging our parents' memory into her manipulations. No, I said. That single word rang through the room like a gunshot. The chatter behind us died down. For the first time, her friends stopped rummaging and looked at me as though realizing this wasn't a joke. Camille tilted her head, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Don't be selfish. Everyone here agrees, right? A chorus followed, voices I didn't even recognize. She's got plenty of space. Why make such a fuss over one room? Come on, Maya. Don't ruin the vibe. One of the men cracked open a beer right there in my bedroom, foam spilling onto my hardwood floor. He raised the can to Camille as if toasting family. My jaw tightened so hard I thought my teeth might break. Family doesn't invade, I snapped, turning on them. Family doesn't demand. And family sure as hell doesn't treat someone's home like a hotel. Camille's smirk faltered. You're being dramatic, she muttered, her confidence wavering for a split second. But then she stepped closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. What are you going to do, Maya? Throw us all out? You don't have the guts. Her words were gasoline on a fire I'd been holding back for years. I felt my hands tremble, not from fear, but from the rage of decades finally finding its voice. Yes, I said, louder this time so the whole room heard. That's exactly what I'm going to do. The room felt like it was closing in on me. 18 people in my house, voices rising, laughter echoing in my sanctuary as if I were invisible. My pulse stuttered in my ears. I had tried reason. I had tried standing firm, but Camille wasn't listening. She never had. I took a slow breath, forcing my shaking hands to stay steady. Then I turned and walked out of the master bedroom. Behind me I heard scoffs, mocking laughter. Camille's voice dripping with disdain. She's bluffing. She won't do anything. But she was wrong. I strode down the hall into my home office and shut the heavy oak door with a sharp click. The lock turned under my fingers. And for the first time since they arrived, I felt the faintest sense of control. I leaned against the desk, breathing hard, staring at the phone in my hand. My thumb hovered over the screen. Could I really do this? Call the police on my own sister? On people who were technically family? A crash from the living room made my decision for me. The sound of glass shattering, followed by laughter, rolled through the house. My sanctuary was under siege. I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My voice trembled, but it carried a strength I hadn't heard in myself before. There are people in my home who refuse to leave, about 18 of them. They forced their way in. I need help. The operator's tone was calm, professional. Are you in immediate physical danger? Not yet, I whispered, glancing at the door as shadows passed under the crack. But they won't leave. I told them multiple times. They're ignoring me. Can you confirm this is your residence? Yes, I said firmly. I purchased the property last month. I have the deed here. My name is Maya Alvarez. Officers are being dispatched to your location. Stay in a secure room until they arrive. Estimated arrival time is 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I could survive that. A loud knock rattled the office door. Maya. Camille's voice sang out falsely cheerful. Come on, don't be like this. We are family. Let's talk like adults. Another voice, male and mocking, chimed in. She's calling the cops, isn't she? Total drama queen. My stomach twisted, but I stayed silent. Then Camille's tone shifted, sharp as broken glass. If you do this, Maya, you'll regret it. You'll lose me. You'll lose all of us, and you'll be alone in this big, empty house. Her words pressed on old wounds, the fear of loneliness that had haunted me for years. But instead of breaking me, they hardened me. I looked at the framed photo on my desk, our parents smiling, a reminder of values Camille had long abandoned. I gripped the phone tighter and whispered to myself, better alone than exploited. Finally, the sound I'd been waiting for, sirens, faint at first, then louder, cutting through the ocean breeze like a blade. My heart leaped into my throat. Relief surged through me, tempered with a flicker of dread, because I knew the confrontation wasn't over. Heavy pounding shook the front door. This time, it wasn't Camille or her entourage. This knock carried authority. Police, open up. The house erupted into chaos. Footsteps scrambled across my marble floors, voices overlapping in panic. I unlocked my office door and stepped into the hallway, my phone still clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Camille was at the foyer, plastering on her sweetest smile as she pulled the door open. Officers, thank goodness you're here, she cooed, tone dripping with false innocence. My sister's having a bit of an episode. We were just trying to spend some time together. The officer's voice cut her off, firm and unimpressed. Two of them stepped inside, a tall man with graying temples and a younger woman with sharp, watchful eyes. Are you the homeowner who made the call? The older officer asked. I stepped forward, my knees trembling, but my voice steady. Yes. Maya Alvarez. This is my property. They entered without permission and refused to leave when I asked. The older officer nodded. Do you have proof of ownership? I opened the folder I'd prepared and handed over the deed. My fingers no longer shook. They felt steady for the first time all day. Camille laughed lightly, trying to wave it off. This is a family matter, officers. She's just overreacting. We drove 6 hours to get here and she invited us. I never invited you, I snapped, my voice ringing louder than I expected. You demanded, you barged in. You've destroyed my home. The younger officer scanned the room. Her eyes lingered on the half-empty beer cans, the piles of luggage, the sandy footprints streaking across my pristine floor. Her jaw tightened. The older officer said to me, "Do you want these individuals removed from your property?" "Yes," I said clearly, my voice unwavering. "Every single one of them." Gasps rippled through the group. Camille's smile faltered. "Maya, don't do this," she hissed. "Think about what you're saying. We're family." "Family doesn't force their way into someone's home," I said coldly. The officer turned back to Camille and her crowd. "You have 20 minutes to gather your belongings and vacate. If you're still here after that, you'll be arrested for trespassing." The room exploded with protests. Some of Camille's friends cursed under their breath as they started stuffing clothes back into suitcases. Others shot me dirty looks as though I were the villain. Camille herself stood frozen, fists clenched, her face a mask of fury barely concealed beneath a trembling smile. "You'll regret this," she whispered, leaning close as she dragged her suitcase toward the door. "You think you've won, but this isn't over." I didn't flinch. For the first time in years, I felt taller than her, stronger, untouchable. As the last of them shuffled out under the officer's watchful eyes, silence began to creep back into my villa. My villa. And for the first time since that phone call, I allowed myself to breathe. When the door finally closed behind them, the silence was deafening. No more laughter bouncing off the walls. No more clinking beer cans or careless footsteps smearing sand across my floors. Just the steady rhythm of waves outside and the faint hum of the ocean breeze. I leaned against the foyer wall, exhaling so deeply it felt like the first real breath I'd taken all day. My hands were still trembling, not from fear this time, but from release. I walked through the villa slowly, almost like an investigator surveying a crime scene. Beer bottles on the counter, towels abandoned on the floor, fingerprints smudging the glass doors to the infinity pool. In my bedroom, my bedspread was wrinkled from the suitcase Camille had so boldly thrown there. As I straightened the blankets on my bed, I caught sight of Seacliff Bay through the balcony doors. The sun was dipping lower, painting the water in shades of orange and pink. For a moment, I just stood there, my chest rising and falling with something between exhaustion and relief. They were gone. Camille's voice still echoed in my head. "You'll regret this. You'll lose us. You'll be alone in this big empty house." The words twisted in my chest, pressing on old wounds. But then another thought followed, clear and steady. I'd rather be alone than used. I poured myself a glass of Cabernet from my wine fridge and carried it to the balcony. The salty breeze brushed my skin, cool and soothing. I sank into my teak chair, finally letting the weight slip from my shoulders. 4 years, I had been the sister who said yes, the one who sacrificed, the one who swallowed anger for the sake of peace. Today, for the first time, I had said no, and I hadn't crumbled. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. Dozens of missed calls and texts from Camille lit up the screen. I didn't bother opening them. Instead, I turned the phone over face down. Tonight wasn't about her. Tonight was about me. I raised my glass toward the ocean, the horizon glowing gold as if the universe itself was toasting with me. To peace, to freedom, to finally drawing the line. Camille would rage. She would twist the story, call me selfish, maybe even try to turn the rest of the family against me. I knew that. But I also knew something else. I had proof. I had the law on my side. And most importantly, I had finally reclaimed my voice. This villa wasn't just a house. It was a symbol, a reminder that I had earned my place, my peace, my boundaries. And no one, sister or not, was ever going to take that away from me again. As the last rays of sun slipped beneath the horizon, I felt something I hadn't in years. Hope. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own room, with nothing but the sound of waves greeting me. For the first time in decades, I had kept something that was mine.